In the town of Bala lived a young man named Dele. He was a medical doctor who worked and lived in the town. He was the best doctor in Bala, and everyone respected him for his hard work and desire to heal those who were sick. Dele was so kind that sometimes he would not collect money from the less privileged for their treatments. The poor people of Bala loved him for this, as they saw that he genuinely understood their struggles. Whenever a poor person comes to Dele for treatment, he would say to that person, "Don't worry about paying me. I know that things are not easy, so I will treat your illness free of charge." However, it wasn't just the poor people of Bala that loved Dele. The wealthy men and women of the town loved him too. They respected his work ethic and his kindness, and they would shower him with lots of gifts. Among the gifts he received were cars, watches, land, and money. This made Dele one of the most prosperous people of Bala, and that attracted a lot of ladies to him. But Dele was not interested in women, as he was too busy in the hospital treating his patients. He barely had time for himself, and because of this, he remained single for a very long time. But all that was about to change when he met Lara. Lara had just finished her youth service and began working in a bank in the town. She was a cashier who took deposits and gave withdrawals. One day, Dele walked into the bank to do a transaction, and Lara attended to him. While she was processing his transaction, she noticed how everyone in the banking hall greeted Dele. Men and women from different walks of life stopped to shake his hands and have short conversations with him inside the bank. She overheard how they kept on thanking him for treating their illnesses, and some even thanked him for treating them for free. From what Lara overheard, she figured that Dele wasn't just a doctor, but a kind-hearted one who was ready to help people in need. And this sparked her interest in him, and she was hoping that he would talk to her after he was done greeting the people in the banking hall. Now, besides his popularity, Dele was also a very handsome man. His broad shoulders complemented his height, and his dark chocolate skin made him even more attractive. He was also well-spoken, and even though his voice was deep, it was also very soothing to listen to. All these qualities made Lara interested in knowing more about Dele. She had fallen for him right there on the spot, and she couldn't wait to talk to him. Finally, Dele finished greeting the people in the banking hall, and he now had time to focus on his transaction. And while he apologized to Lara for being distracted by all the greetings, he couldn't help but notice how beautiful she was. Lara was tall, light-skinned, and slender. She had eyes that could lighten up a dark room, and a voice that could calm the harshest storm. Dele was not one to flirt with women, but he was so attracted to Lara that he was willing to start a proper conversation with her. He said to her, "My name is Dr. Dele, but you can just call me Dele. I have never seen you in this bank before, and I come here regularly. What is your name?" And with a slight blush on her face, Lara replied, "My name is Lara. I just finished my youth service, and I only began working here last week. That's why you have not seen me." And as they chatted, the connection between them became very obvious. Everyone in the banking hall saw how much Dele and Lara clicked. It was so obvious that the manager of the bank had to come out and meet them. The bank manager, Mrs. Adoronke, knew Dr. Dele very well. She too was one of his patients, and she liked and respected him just like everyone else in Bala. She walked up to the counter where Dele was talking to Lara, and with a huge smile on her face said to them, Dr. Dele, I have never seen you talk to any lady before. You are always busy with your work, and you have no time to even spare a moment with them. There must be something special about Lara for you to spend all this time chatting with her." She then turned to Lara and said, "Lara, count yourself very lucky. All the single ladies in Bala have tried their luck with Dr. Dele, but he shows no interest in any of them. I guess you are the lucky one." Mrs. Aderonke then walked back to her office. Lara couldn't believe what she had just heard. From the way people greeted Dele, she knew that he was a nice and well-respected man, but she had never assumed that he didn't have a woman in his life. He was just too handsome not to. But since Mrs. Aderonke had confirmed it, then Lara had no reason to doubt. Rounding up their conversation, Dele asked that they have dinner later in the evening so that they could talk and get to know each other better. And even though Lara did not show it openly, she was very excited that Dele asked her out. She just smiled and said, "Okay, I will have dinner with you later today. Just tell me where to meet you." And as Dele left the bank, everyone in Lara's office kept on staring at her, knowing how lucky she was to be going on a date with Dele. Lara couldn't wait for the closing time. She wanted to get off work and have dinner with Dele so badly, but it seemed time had intentionally slowed down. Finally, the clock struck 5 p.m. and that meant it was closing time. Lara quickly gathered her things and left the bank. She went home and chose her best dress in preparation for the date. When Lara reached the restaurant where they were to have dinner, Dele was already seated there. He had prepared a special table for both of them, as he wanted to show her how much of a classy gentleman he could be. The place was a fancy restaurant, one that needed a reservation before you could sit on a table. And Dele had made the reservation within such a short time. Lara was impressed by how Dele went out of his way to impress her, and she was really blown away by how well their table was decorated. She saw firsthand how romantic he could be. And as they ate, Dele and Lara exchanged several stories about themselves. They talked about everything from their childhood experiences to university and family. They shared many laughs as they chatted, and the calm music playing at the restaurant added more spice to their dates. Now, seeing how well he and Lara were getting along, Dele asked her to be his girlfriend. Lara, with a tiny but obvious smile on her face, said to him, "You're quite bold asking a girl to be your girlfriend on the first date." And Dele answered her, "Well, they say fortune favors the bold, and I have a good feeling that fortune will favor me today." Lara was already impressed by how Dele carried himself, but his responses impressed her even more. She agreed to be his girlfriend, and that was the beginning of a beautiful relationship. But what neither of them knew about each other was that they were both virgins. Dele had never been with a woman, and Lara had never been with a man also. They have both been in different relationships in the past, but they chose to keep themselves clean. It wasn't until one day, when they were discussing about their future in Dele's house, that they raised the topic. Lara was the first one to reveal her status. She told Dele that day, "Dele, I know we are both in love with each other, and we've become so close, and I know that one day you want us to consummate our relationship, but I have something to tell you. I am a virgin, and I plan to keep it that way until we get married." Lara was worried, however, that Dele would be upset and that her refusal might make him call off the relationship, but she was surprised at what she heard next. "You are a virgin?" Dele asked. "Me too. I have never been with any woman before, and I also want to keep myself till marriage." This made both of them very happy. It was a match made in heaven. They were both pure and had never been with anyone. This meant that they were going to be the first for each other on their wedding night. Speaking of the wedding, they agreed that they would get married in the next 6 months. They wanted to spend more time getting to know one another before rushing into marriage. They wanted to know each other's likes, dislikes, and temperaments, just so that they know how to manage each other well when they get married. They also wanted to meet their families and create a strong bond between them. Things were also going on well for Dele and Lara at work. Dele continued to thrive in his profession as a doctor, while Lara got a promotion at the bank where she worked. Then finally, the 6 months came, and it was time for Lara and Dele to get married. The planning process was rigorous, as they searched all across Bala town for the best hall to use. They also hired the best caterer and interior decorators in town. All that was left was to buy the perfect wedding gown for Lara. One day, Lara went to the market in search of a wedding gown, and as she walked from store to store in search of the perfect gown, she ran into an old flame of hers. It was Ayomide, her ex-boyfriend from university. Now, Ayomide wasn't just Lara's ex-boyfriend. He was her very first boyfriend, although they never became intimate while they dated in school. Ayomide would pressurize Lara to lay with him, but she always refused. This used to make him very angry, and it was the major reason he broke up with her. "Omolarami," said Ayomide as he walked closer to Lara. Lara was surprised to see him, but she greeted him casually. "Hi, it's been a while. What brings you here?" Ayomide couldn't help but notice how much Lara had matured as a woman. She was beautiful when she was in school, but now she was even more attractive, and this made him lust after her even the more than he did when they were in university. He quickly pulled himself together and answered, "I came here looking for materials for a suit. What about you?" "I'm getting married this month, and I came looking for a wedding gown, one that would make me look so beautiful in the eyes of my husband-to-be." Hearing this made Ayomide extremely jealous. He did not want to show it, but he was pained beyond imagination. He thought to himself, "How can I be the first guy to date her, yet I never get to touch her? And then a new guy from who knows where would have the honor. Never. I can never allow that. I must touch Lara before her wedding day." And so, Ayomide quickly devised a plan to lure Lara into his house. He said, "You won't find any wedding gowns here, but my sister sells them, and she has some in my house as we speak. They are so gorgeous, and they will look good on you. Do you care to try them on?" Lara agreed, not knowing that she was following Ayomide into a trap. As soon as they entered Ayomide's house, he locked the door and closed all the curtains. Lara wondered what was going on and asked him, "Where's your sister, and where are the wedding gowns you spoke of? Why are you also closing the curtains?" But Ayomide did not reply. The look on his face then changed from innocent to diabolical. He had Lara right where he wanted her, and he was going to do with her as he pleased. To Lara's greatest shock, Ayomide pounced on her, and even with all her efforts to fight him off, Ayomide was too strong, so he had his way with her. He then laughed and said to her, "Now that I have satisfied myself, feel free to go and marry that fiancé of yours, whoever he is." He then pushed Lara out of his house and locked the door. Lara was shattered and devastated at what just happened. How was she going to tell Dele that she had lost her virginity? How was she even going to tell him that the person who violated her was her ex-boyfriend from the university? She was really heartbroken, but she had no choice. She just had to tell Dele the truth. Lara got back to Dele's house looking tattered and roughed up. Dele was shocked to see her in that condition, and so he held her by her shoulders and asked what happened. Lara was reluctant at first, but she summoned up courage to tell him how Ayomide violated her. Dele fell to the couch when he heard this. He was weak to his bones. He did not know how to respond to what Lara had just told him. How could this be true? The virgin girl he loved whom he too had kept his virginity for, had now been defied. He got up angrily and asked Lara to take him to Ayomide's house. But Lara, seeing how furious Dele was, decided not to. She knew that Dele's anger might cause him to do something that he would later regret. In fact, she was afraid that Dele would kill Ayomide. Now, Lara's reluctance in taking Dele to Ayomide's house not only made him angrier, it made him also suspicious. He paused for a moment and thought, why is Lara stopping me from going to Ayomide's house and dealing with him? Was she truly violated? Or was she just carried away by the sight of her ex-boyfriend and decided to lay with him? What was she even doing in his house in the first place? Is Lara deceiving me? And from then on, so many thoughts ran through Dele's head. He did not know what to believe anymore. And no matter how hard Lara tried to calm him down, he was convinced that she was hiding something. But truly, Lara was not hiding anything. Unfortunately, the damage had been done, and Dele knew that regardless of what he believed, the fact still remained that Lara was no longer a virgin, and this made him lose his mind. Right there and then, he told Lara to her face that their wedding was off. He had always wanted to marry a virgin, but now that she had lost her virginity, he could no longer marry her. Lara was heartbroken. She begged and begged, but Dele's mind was made up. What was once a beautiful relationship had now been destroyed, and it was time for both Dele and Lara to move on. Dele was a very emotional person. He couldn't bear the pain of losing his wife-to-be in such a manner, and so he decided to leave Bala to another town and start a new life. He thought that relocating to a new town would make him forget about Lara, but he never knew that the trauma he suffered from her being raped would affect him for months to come. Dele moved to Ikate village, where he built a new clinic and bought a new house. And thanks to how good of a doctor he was, he quickly became popular in the community. People of all ages would come to his clinic for treatment, and he would do a great job. He soon gained the trust of the entire village, but no one knew that Dele, even though he was a good and caring doctor, now had personal demons that would soon be unleashed. One day, a young girl of 19-year-old came to Dele's clinic for treatment. This girl had the same height and skin color as Lara, and as soon as Dele saw her, memories of the past heartaches came rushing back. Dele asked the girl if she was a virgin, and she said yes. And without thinking twice, he locked his door and did something he had never done before. Dele forced himself on the virgin girl and had his way with her. He then ordered the girl to leave his clinic and warned her not to tell anyone of what had happened, and that if she did, no one would even believe her because he was a well-loved and respected personality in the village. As for the girl, she too was afraid to tell anyone what the doctor did to her, as she feared the social stigma that would follow. This was the first time for Dele, but definitely not the last, as he continued to do this to all the young virgin girls who came to him for treatment. And as horrible as his actions were, he enjoyed doing it. Dele strongly believed that life had cheated him by allowing his former fiancée Lara to get violated, and now he was going to console himself by having his way with all the virgins in Ikate village. Dele's mind was so traumatized by what happened to Lara that he now became obsessed with these virgin girls. Every time a young girl comes to his clinic, he would first ask her about her virginity, and if the girl says that she was still a virgin, he would then force himself on her and warn her not to speak of it because no one in Ikate village would believe her. The girls who became Dele's victim were afraid to tell anyone of his evil ways. They too knew that no one would believe them due to his status of being a kind doctor who was loved and well respected by the entire village. So, as months passed, Dele continued to use his clinic as a venue to commit his atrocities. He kept on having his way with as many virgins as he came across in the village, but he had no idea that his days would soon be numbered. Already, light rumors of Dele's exploits had begun to surface. Even though the rumors were not yet popular among the elders, some of the young girls who Dele violated spread it among the youths. One girl in particular, who was one of Dele's victims, told her sister Tolu of what the doctor did to her. Tolu was skeptical, however, and wanted to confirm for herself, as she found it unbelievable that Dele would do such a thing, as she too saw him as a kind-hearted doctor who helped people get better whenever they were sick. Tolu came up with a plan, and then, one day, she decided to go to Dele's clinic to find out the truth. On her way, she took a small container of dried pepper and a small tape recorder, and as Dele saw Tolu, he locked his door and asked her if she was a virgin. She said yes, and when Dele wanted to have his way with her, just as he had done with every other virgin in the village, she took out the small container of dried pepper, opened it, and threw the pepper in his eyes. Dele fell to the floor as he frantically searched for water to wash his eyes, and that was when Tolu turned on the tape recorder. As Dele kept struggling to see, he screamed out in pain, "Tolu, you have the guts to pour pepper in my eyes? Do you know who I am? I am Dr. Dele, and I must have my way with all the virgins in Ikate village. You might have escaped today, but you will surely come back another day." Unfortunately for Dele, he did not know that Tolu was still standing in his office and had recorded everything that he said. And once Tolu had gotten enough evidence, she quietly crept out of Dele's office, leaving him there to search for water to wash his eyes. After Dele washed off the pepper from his eyes, he said to himself, "I will get her next time. Even if she reports me to the elders, they will never believe her, thanks to the respectable name I have built for myself in this village." That same evening, Tolu went to the king's palace to make a report of a serial rapist in their village. She also told the king that she could expose this person, but that it had to be done publicly. And so, the king called for an emergency gathering in the town hall immediately and requested that every prominent man and woman of Ikate village be present. However, the king did not tell anyone that it was about allegations of rape, so that the offender would not get scared and run away. And so, that evening, everyone gathered in the town hall, wondering why the king had summoned them within such short notice. Dele, as well as other notable personalities in Ikate, were also there. The girls who had fallen into Dele's trap and their parents were also in attendance. The town hall meeting was about to start, but to Dele's greatest surprise, Tolu was the one who walked up to the front to address the crowd. This made him very uncomfortable, but he was confident in his reputation as a respectable doctor who was kind and caring, and he knew that no one would believe Tolu if she tried to expose him. Tolu began to speak. She said, "There is a man in our midst who forces himself on virgin girls, and that person is Dr. Dele. He pretends to be caring and kind, but he has forced himself on all the virgins in our village, and even today, he tried to do the same on me too." Everyone at the meeting was shocked, but they could not believe that Dr. Dele could do such a thing. One of the men seated there got up and said, "Are you alright? How can you say such a thing about our very own Dr. Dele? He is a caring and loving gentleman, and he would never do such a thing." This made Dele smile, knowing that the people of Ikate were strongly in his favor. But then, Tolu pulled out the tape recorder and said, "All of you should listen carefully. I can prove right now that Dr. Dele forces himself on virgins and violates them." Tolu then played the tape, and Dele's unintentional confession was as clear as daylight. His voice echoed through the town hall as the tape played, exposing him for who he was. And that was when all his victims stood up one by one to talk about their own personal encounters with the doctor. And in the blink of an eye, the love the people of Ikate had for Dele turned into hate. Forcing oneself on a woman was a serious crime in Ikate, one that was punishable by public flogging after being stripped naked. Dele knew about this, and so he tried to run away, but the crowd reacted quickly and caught him. That was when Dele fell to his knees and began to cry. He told everyone that he was not always such a person, but only became that way after his ex-fiancée was also violated by a man. He told them that he let his emotions and anger get the best of him, and that forcing himself on virgins was the only way he knew how to ease the pains from the past. Some people took pity on him after hearing his story, but the parents of the victims didn't want to hear any of it. They demanded that the king deal with Dele according to the laws of the land. And as Dele was being dragged away to face his punishments, he was filled with deep regrets at the monster he had let his past experiences turn him into. The embittered parents did not just stop at the punishments of the land, as they also got him arrested and ensured that he got the full years of imprisonment for his crime. Today, I'll be talking about the importance of controlling one's emotions and finding better ways to heal from traumatic experiences. The world is filled with so many evil, and people do not really need to have any valid reason to be bad. So, it is better to shield yourself and guide your emotions. Don't change from being the kind and good person you are because of the evil someone did to you. Because at the end of the day, you'd have to take responsibility for all your actions. And remember, justice will always take its course.